Daniel's family once lived a life many envied. His father, Mr. Okeke, worked in a big oil company. He was a diligent man who rose through the ranks by sheer hard work. His colleagues often pretended to smile at him, but behind his back, envy grew like a fire. Whispers turned to plots, and soon, lies were spread to the management. One morning, he was called into the office and told that his services were no longer needed. Just like that, years of sweat and loyalty were swept aside. He came home with a heavy heart, holding his termination letter in trembling hands. His wife, a trader at the local market, tried to encourage him. She told him that as long as they were alive, things would get better. But fate had another plan. One evening, on her way back from the market, carrying goods in her day's earnings, a speeding bus lost control. The crash threw her to the ground. By the time people gathered to help, she could not move her legs. The hospital became their second home. Doctors confirmed that her spinal cord was badly damaged. She was paralyzed from the waist down. The bills piled up like a mountain, and the small savings left from her trading finished quickly. Daniel watched his father pacing hospital corridors, helpless and broken. The man who once drove proudly to work now begged friends for assistance. Days turned to weeks, and the doctors insisted on surgery. In frustration but out of love, Mr. Okeke sold his only car, the car that once symbolized his hard work and dignity, just to pay for his wife's treatment. Still, the money was not enough. Nights at the hospital were filled with silent tears and unanswered prayers. Daniel, though still young, saw how his father carried the weight of the world. There were moments of anger, moments of despair, but never once did his father give up. He stood by his wife, determined to fight, even when life seemed determined to break him. That was the beginning of Daniel's real education, an education in struggle, sacrifice, and survival. Daniel had just finished writing his final high school examinations. Like every other teenager, he dreamed of entering the university, wearing the gown of freedom and building a bright future. But those dreams slowly faded as reality pressed down on his family. His mother was still bedridden, confined to a wheelchair, and needed constant care. His father, once a respected oil company worker, now woke up at dawn and walked to the market. There he carried heavy bags of rice, cartons of goods, and baskets of vegetables for traders, just to earn a few naira for food. It was painful for Daniel to watch. This was a man who once wore fine suits to the office, now sweating under the sun, struggling to provide. University became impossible. The little money the family could gather had to be reserved for his three sisters, two still in secondary school and one in primary. Daniel knew what he had to do. He let go of his own dream so that his sisters could hold on to theirs. One afternoon, while helping his father return from the market, a neighbor called out to him. The man owned a phone repair shop at the junction. He noticed Daniel's seriousness and offered to teach him. Daniel began spending hours in that kiosk, watching closely as phones were opened, wires rejoined, and dead batteries brought back to life. He asked questions, took notes, and practiced whenever he could. Soon he learned how to change screens, fix charging ports, and troubleshoot common problems. It wasn't much, but people began trusting him with small repairs. From those little jobs, he earned a few naira, and sometimes he would press the money into his father's hand quietly. His father would look at him with tears in his eyes, half broken by the situation, yet half proud of the young man his son was becoming. Day after day, Daniel and his father carried the weight together, one fixing broken phones, the other carrying loads at the market. Though poverty surrounded them, their will to survive remained unshaken. Daniel's youth was stolen by hardship, but it was also shaped by responsibility. Little did he know that these struggles were preparing him for the story of love and destiny waiting ahead. It was during a youth program at the Redeemed Christian Church of God. Young people had gathered from different places to learn, worship, and receive training in free skill acquisition. Among the invited trainers was Daniel's boss, a respected phone and electronics repairer. Daniel, as always, followed his master. While his boss took the stage to address the crowd, he assigned Daniel to handle one of the smaller groups of young people interested in learning home phone repair. Daniel stood before them, nervous at first, but quickly growing confident. He showed them how to identify common faults, how to handle delicate wires, and even revealed some secret phone codes that amazed the group. His hands were swift and his explanations clear. In that crowd sat Zara. Unlike the others, she wasn't only interested in the skill, she was fascinated by Daniel himself, his intelligence, his calm way of teaching, and the spark of passion in his eyes. Every now and then, Zara would raise her hand. "Excuse me, Daniel. What happens if the phone still doesn't charge after changing the port? Why does this code work only on some phones?" Her questions never seemed to end, but Daniel answered each one with patience and a smile. For 3 days, the program continued, and each day, somehow, they found themselves in the same group, the same conversations. By the end, it no longer felt like coincidence. On the last day, they exchanged contacts. At first, it was simple, just friendship. Zara would sometimes stop by Daniel's boss's shop to greet him and ask more questions. Whenever she came, Daniel's boss would tease him. "Daniel, you're making friends with the daughter of a rich man? If you get arrested tomorrow, don't call me." Everyone would burst into laughter, including Daniel, who would shake his head shyly. He never imagined how deeply Zara's presence would soon change his life. Zara's mother had begun to notice changes. Normally, her daughter's driver took her to and from her jam lessons. But recently, Zara had refused. She insisted on going alone. Almost every evening, she returned home later than expected. One day, while Zara was helping her mother in the kitchen, her mother smiled playfully and asked, "Zara, why are you always coming home late these days? Is there something you're not telling me?" Zara hesitated for a moment, then gave a shy smile. "Mummy, I have a friend." Her mother raised her eyebrows, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "A friend? Who is this friend? What's his father's name? Do they live in our estate? Is he in the university?" Her questions rolled out one after the other, but Zara's answers didn't match her mother's expectations. Finally, Zara spoke with calm honesty. "Mummy, he's not in the university. He repairs phones. But Mummy, he's very smart. You need to see the way he explains things." The smile on her mother's face disappeared. She stared at her daughter in disbelief. "What? A phone repairer? Zara, have you lost your mind? You, the daughter of Chief and Mrs. Attawale, lowering yourself to sit with boys like that? God forbid!" Her voice rose with anger. Zara tried to explain, but her mother refused to listen. That night, she told her husband everything. Chief Attawale listened quietly, but his verdict was swift. "Tomorrow, we are beginning arrangements. Zara will continue her studies abroad. She must leave this environment before it's too late." When Zara heard the decision, her heart sank. She told Daniel the next day. He tried to be strong, but tears betrayed him. He had faced poverty, hunger, and humiliation, but nothing broke him like the thought of losing Zara. Yet Zara was not ready to give up. She pleaded with her father, explaining how she wanted to stay and complete her studies in Nigeria. At first, he was unmoved, but Zara's persistence touched him. He finally agreed. She could remain, but under close watch. For Zara, it was a silent victory. She stayed in Nigeria, not just for her education, but for Daniel. By now, Daniel was 22. He had completed his years of apprenticeship under his master and finally opened his own small phone repair shop. It wasn't grand, but it was his. From the shop, he earned enough to pay for a modest single room in town, the same city where Zara was schooling. Meanwhile, Zara was already a university student. Each week after her lectures, she would quietly pack a small bag and head to Daniel's place. Their weekends were filled with laughter, simple meals, and long conversations about dreams and the future. Zara never told her parents about these visits. Not even her roommate, Grace, knew the full truth. She only noticed that Zara disappeared every weekend, always returning on Sunday evening with a satisfied smile. One Saturday evening, Grace returned to their apartment but couldn't find her key. She tried calling Zara, but Zara was too engrossed in her conversation with Daniel to notice her phone ringing. Frustrated, Grace decided to call Zara's mother, thinking perhaps Zara had gone home and could help her find the spare key. When Mrs. Attawale picked the call, Grace politely asked, "Good evening, Ma. Please, I'm looking for Zara. Is she at home? I misplaced my key." The question shocked Zara's mother. Her voice hardened. "At home. Zara has never come home any weekend since school resumed." A heavy silence followed. Grace realized she had revealed too much. But before she could say another word, Zara's mother added coldly, "Listen to me, Grace. Do not tell Zara about this call. Keep it between us. Do you understand?" Grace nodded quickly, her heart pounding. She had no idea what storm she had just set in motion. That night, Mrs. Attewell told her husband everything. Chief Attewell's face darkened with anger. At first, he wanted to involve the police immediately, to scare Daniel away once and for all. But his wife reminded him of one thing. Zara was stubborn. If they arrested Daniel, she would fight for him and do whatever it took to set him free. And so they decided on another plan, one far more dangerous. It had been a month since Mrs. Attewell secretly discovered Zara's weekend visits. Unknown to Daniel, a dark plan was already unfolding. That weekend, Zara once again went to Daniel's one-room apartment. They spent the evening together, laughing, sharing food, and talking about their future. But as night fell, something unexpected happened. Zara lay down to rest. By morning, Daniel tried to wake her. "Zara, Zara, it's morning." She didn't move. At first, he thought she was only sleeping deeply. But when he shook her again and again, panic rose in his chest. He touched her face. Cold. He shouted her name, his voice trembling. "Somebody help! Please, somebody help me!" Neighbors rushed in, confusion and fear spreading through the small compound. Daniel's hands shook as he dialed Grace, Zara's roommate. His voice cracked. "Please, come quickly. It's Zara. She's not waking up." Within the hour, Grace arrived, but not alone. She came with her parents and the police. The moment the officers saw Zara lying lifeless on the bed, suspicion turned to accusation. Daniel was dragged out of his own room, handcuffed and taken away. His cries filled the street. "I didn't do anything. Please, she was fine last night. I loved her. I could never harm her." But no one listened. News spread like wildfire. Daniel's family wept bitterly, powerless to defend him. His mother, still paralyzed, cried until her eyes swelled. His father pleaded with anyone who would listen, but nothing could be done. Daniel was charged and sent to prison. Days turned into months. Soon a full year had passed. Yet in the middle of his suffering, a strange truth began to surface. One of his father's old colleagues, racked with guilt, came forward. He revealed the real reason Mr. Okeke lost his oil company job years ago. Envy and lies, planted by men who feared his rise. Now the truth was finally exposed. The company called Daniel's father back, not only to return to work, but to be promoted to a higher position as compensation for the injustice he had suffered. But even with this blessing, their hearts were still heavy, because Daniel remained in prison, branded as the boy who destroyed the daughter of a wealthy family. 5 long years had passed. Daniel sat behind prison walls awaiting trial. His father did everything within his power, lawyers, petitions, appeals, but nothing seemed to work. The rich always had the louder voice. Yet outside the prison gates, life was slowly changing for his family. His 2 younger sisters were now in the university, while the last was in secondary school. His father, now promoted, could provide for them again. Even his mother, once confined to a wheelchair, had been flown to India for surgery and was beginning to walk again. But none of these blessings could erase Daniel's pain. He lived every day with the bitter regret of Zara's death, mourning the love he thought he had lost forever. It was a quiet Saturday morning in Chief Attewell's compound. A car pulled up, and out stepped a young woman with tears in her eyes. It was Zara, alive. She had returned from abroad after completing her studies, carrying a storm in her heart. Her return shocked everyone. For years, her parents had made the world believe she was gone, but the truth had finally reached her. Her old roommate, Grace, had broken down in guilt and confessed. Over the phone, Grace revealed everything. How Zara's mother had paid her to secretly slip a drug into Zara's food before she left to visit Daniel that weekend. How the substance made Zara fall into a deep sleep. How she was rushed to a private hospital and kept away from the world. And worst of all, how Zara was told a terrible lie, that Daniel had died from food poisoning. Broken and confused, Zara had been forced abroad for a new life, but now she was back, determined to uncover the truth. Zara confronted her parents in tears. "You lied to me. You lied to him. You destroyed our lives just to keep us apart." Her father tried to calm her, but Zara's voice shook with anger. If you don't drop every charge and order Daniel's release, I will sue you both. I will not be silent anymore." Her parents, ashamed and afraid of the scandal, had no choice. They obeyed. The truth was exposed, and Daniel's freedom was signed. The prison gate opened. Daniel stepped out, his face worn from suffering, his heart heavy with scars time could never erase. But then he saw her, Zara, standing there, alive. For a moment he froze, unable to believe his eyes. Then tears streamed down his face as he ran into her arms. They held each other tightly, crying, broken yet whole again. After 5 years of lies, betrayal, and pain, love had survived.
Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe.